Gamescom happened this past week, right? We saw a ton of things debuted, including what we covered here extensively on the channel already with Modern Warfare 3, but I won't lie, the biggest surprise to me out of Gamescom was XDefiant, or rather a lack thereof. Many, including myself, had this hunch that with developer teases about things baking in the oven, things being close to ready, that time frame that we were told about coming closer to an end, that surely Gamescom would have been a perfect location to announce a launch date, but unfortunately, nothing had happened. We were as much in the dark in regards to a launch for XDefiant as we were before Gamescom. So what's up with XDefiant? Well, Mark Rubin, executive producer, gave a bit of an update on the status of things, and today we're running down that update as well as some additional thoughts on the entire XDefiant release window and where we are at the moment. As we go along, drop your thoughts down below. Are you looking forward to XDefiant? Are you thinking that a later than expected launch is possible? Do you think that pushing further into the fall hurts the potential of the game? Whatever the case, drop your thoughts down below. But if you enjoy the video, you find it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And if you'd like to stay up to date with all things XDefiant, Modern Warfare 3, and other content, consider subscribing. I'd love to have you in the community. Finally, check out my friends over at G Fuel for 30% off certain items in the month of August, but more on that a little later. For now, let's jump into the discussion about XDefiant and where we are right now. So to start, we have to rewind a little bit here, because on July 30th, Mark Rubin gave an update here in regards to where XDefiant was following the open beta that we saw a couple of months ago at this point, where he said, quick insight into what's going on right now. We're in the process of getting approval by first parties, but because this is our first time getting the version of the engine through certification, it's going to take a bit longer than usual. Don't worry, as soon as I have more info, I will share it. Also, I know it's been some time since our beta already, and I know that usually means launches soon after, but for us, as we've done in the past, our betas are real tests and not marketing moments. Normally, a game would already be starting when the beta goes live, but we used our beta as a real test to make the game better. Hope this all makes sense. Also, this is just an update on the process. Nothing has changed in our anticipated release timeframe. Although we are still on track, we won't really know until we get a few reports back from first parties on our submission. So that was almost a month ago at this point, but then again, we all kind of thought that, okay, we're building up to this. We have another event here at the beginning of September, which we'll talk about in a second. But we also have Gamescom, which was a global thing, not just something that's a bit more niche that they could drop something out of the blue with, but instead they could use that to actually amplify the messaging of either, hey, a release is coming at this point, or hey, we're dropping the game, go download it now. That message at Gamescom would have been amplified tenfold as opposed to just say simply dropping it on a like random Monday or Tuesday. But anyways, almost a month later here after Gamescom now, Mark Rubin put out another update saying, hey y'all, I know it's been quiet and I apologize for that. We're in a phase where we are submitting XDefiant for release and squashing any last minute bugs. And on a new IP, i.e. not a sequel to a sequel to a sequel, calling out Call of Duty there a little bit, we're taking the time to get those steps right. I love how excited everyone is about our game. We've reached many more people than we ever expected already, and I share your frustration on just wanting to be able to play. But unlike what my mom thinks, making a game isn't all fun and games, and not every part of the process is as fun as others. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. The team is hard at work, and we are making progress every day to get the game in your hands as soon as it's ready. Thank you again to everyone for being fans of our game, and I hope to see you all in game soon. So firstly, this kind of transparency, absolutely welcomed. I don't know how many times I can say it. I truly love that Mark Rubin, Aches, and other developers of the XDefiant team have been so publicly open with their thoughts, with sharing feedback, with interacting with the community. That's just not something we're really used to with Call of Duty all that much. So it's definitely refreshing in that sense to have it be so communal in that developmental space. I'd much rather hear this than nothing at all and have to wait and keep hoping and everything like this. This at least lets me know, hey, we're pushed back a little bit perhaps in when we may expect it. It's not going to happen today, tomorrow, the next day, but maybe a couple of weeks from now or something like that. I will say with Rubin's mention of there's light at the end of the tunnel, fingers crossed that is sooner rather than later, but that brings a lot into question here with this, because firstly, well, the timetable is technically still intact. At Ubisoft Forward, they did mention they were aiming to launch by the end of summer. Technically speaking, the end of summer is September 21st. So we have a few more weeks here before that. One other thing to consider though is that we also may have an event that could be a soft launch or an announcement here of some kind that we see actually in about a week's time. If you guys remember, this streamer Ludwig ended up setting up an event to crown the GOAT or greatest of all time gamer in regards to competitive games, taking some of the best professionals from different esports and putting them all into one tournament where in that XDefiant was one of the games that was showcased that was going to be playable as a part of that competition here. That is going to be happening on September 2nd. So a lot of people, along with Gamescom, kind of pointed to this being maybe some sort of hint at when the game would either launch or use it as an announcement springboarding to when the game will launch. So while Gamescom didn't happen, we do still have one more date on deck that we know of that is a possibility. Now, I'd say don't get your hopes up, because worst case scenario, we see nothing here other than some playable footage of the game once again in a competitive format. I'd much rather go in without any expectations and not be disappointed if no announcement is made or the game isn't released on that day than going in expecting the best. So just know that it's a possibility, but keep your mind open. But that begs the question then, well, should a delay happen to XDefiant? Because I don't think that there's any doubt, just given the hype around the first beta that we saw, that people wanted to play this thing badly because of the year Call of Duty had, or at least a large vocal chunk of players wanted that. I think that if you're going to be launching it even close to Modern Warfare 3, it might not have a massive impact for the game's launch, no doubt in my mind. I mean, it's an established IP of 20 years at this point, with tens to hundreds of millions of dollars in just a marketing budget alone, versus a new IP that sure, will be free to play, so it'll reach the masses a little bit quicker, but if you ask someone on the street what COD or XDefiant was, they'd certainly know one of those, and it's probably COD. I think one of the big reasons why XDefiant, at least in our scene, of course not talking about the scene overall, but at least within the Call of Duty scene, why it caught flame so quickly was because it did remind players of that classic Call of Duty feel. It was something that in a year where it just seemed like there was kind of an identity crisis with Modern Warfare 2, if I'm honest with you, trying to basically slow down the gameplay loop to almost a standstill, make it a tactical shooter of some kind, make it an Escape from Tarkov, COD hybrid, or something, however you want to look at it. The gameplay itself wasn't what a lot of people had hoped it to be. Again, if you enjoy the game, great, happy for you. But there's certainly a lot of people this year, by comparison, that weren't too happy. So when you have now a game like Modern Warfare 3 coming up, which kind of looks to be just marketing, hey, we're doing everything Infinity Ward didn't do, not only just the overshadowing of the Call of Duty lifecycle as a whole and this behemoth that is the brand of Call of Duty launching perhaps around the same time, but I'd say it's possible that a lot of the players that are really interested in XDefiant may like some of those fundamental gameplay changes that are being, I guess you can say, reverted with Modern Warfare 3. But here's the thing, I genuinely, truly do. I do think that these can both coexist. From the get-go, Mark Rubin and co. said that this was never meant to be a Call of Duty killer. Instead, they just wanted to make a game that was an homage to the classic arcade shooter. That is truly, I think, what this is, with some, of course, more modernized spins. Of course, you didn't have things like any hero elements back in COD 4, Modern Warfare 2, World of War, but for the most part, the gameplay's simple, it's fluid, it's quick, it's something you can pick up and just grind out. And even though Modern Warfare 3 is trying to be this redemption story and this apology tour perhaps, genuinely, I do think that both can do well and it can offer fun times for players on both ends. I know that I'm certainly going to be playing both games. Hell, I'll still be making content here probably for XDefiant, so hope you guys are cool with that, because that's definitely still on the table here, no matter if the game launches tomorrow or sometime in October or November. And truth be told, I hope they can coexist, even if you're not a fan of XDefiant. Again, totally cool if you're not. Competition is always something that is good for the consumer. If you have another game on the heels that very well could end up making a dent in any sort of player count, that's going to wake up Activision, that's going to wake up the studios that make Call of Duty, in which then they have to push a little harder to try and regain or reclaim any of those lost players. Us as players, that tug of war back and forth as a sort of power struggle, if you want to call it that, for relevancy, that does nothing but benefit us. So having good competition is always something that we should be rooting for, and I do think that while XDefiant won't ever be a COD killer just by nature, again, from the core design that the developer said, I do think that it'll be nice that it can offer some sort of pressure on the heels of Call of Duty, if any at all. So do I think that it could do very well if it launched, say, in May of this year or May of next year? Absolutely. But I can't imagine that that's necessarily in the cards for the executives over at Ubisoft. They probably want to get this thing published, start making money on it, and getting a return on investment here with it. So whatever happens, honestly, just play what makes you happy, man. That's what gaming should be all about. And honestly, I think that having two shooters like this could honestly be pretty good for the players. But anyways, that is what we're going to call it. A little bit of an update here for XDefiant. Might not be exactly the update you were hoping for, but an update no less. And now we look forward to the future. Next date on deck is the 2nd, so keep an eye out for that. But anyways, that's what we're going to call it. Let me know your thoughts down below. Are you guys hoping to see XDefiant here sooner rather than later? Do you think there should be a delay? Do you think that competition will be good for both XDefiant and Call of Duty? Whatever the case, drop your thoughts down below. Before we wrap everything up, make sure to check out my friends over at G Fuel. Code Espresso gets you 30% off certain items in the month of August. Starter kits, hype sauce tubs, hibiscus tea tubs, and other things, all discounted, all great opportunities to save here. So if you guys want to check that out, link in the description below. But drop your thoughts down below. If you enjoyed the video, you find find it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing to stay up to date with all things XDefiant, Modern Warfare 3, and other games here upcoming. Love to have you in the community, but for now, thanks so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you later. Take care and peace.